Hey guys, I'm Chris Buck, and a very warm welcome to Friday Fretworks. And this week, why I don't care what the audience thinks. Sorry, what? So, I think I best explain myself. Now, as someone who has a YouTube channel where he primarily talks about gear, guitar, amps, pedals and the like, it's understandable that a fair amount of comments that I receive on near enough a daily basis are letting me know that gear doesn't matter because the audience doesn't care or won't be able to tell the difference from one piece of gear to another, which of course is absolutely true. But if I'm honest, I don't really care what the audience thinks, at least in that respect. Now, let me try and explain. A few days ago, I did a festival with Buck and Evans where pretty much for the duration of the gig, I played my 62 Strats. I can guarantee that out of a few thousand people in attendance, maybe 1% knew, noticed or even cared what colour guitar I was playing, never mind what make or model or whether it was anything particularly interesting. Next month, going on tour with Cardinal Black and Miles Kennedy, playing fairly sizable venues. And again, I can guarantee that out of the few thousand people in attendance, not really many will care about what guitar I'm playing, what amp I'm running, what overdrive pedals I'm using, whether the King of Tone is really worth the wait time, whether I'm using soldered or solded as patch cables, what's powering my pedals, what pedal board I'm using. You get the picture. The audience just doesn't care, but at the end of the day, they are the ones paying to be there, and in a roundabout way, the ones paying my wages, which I guess does beg the question, does gear even matter at all? Now, a few years ago, I shot an episode of That Pedal Show with Dan and Mick where I took a fair amount of flack in the comment section over the fact that I was using so many overdrive pedals, all of which sounded so similar. I get it, it seems excessive. I guess it is excessive at the end of the day, but I kind of explained my thinking in that show that it wasn't so much for kind of individual pedals, so much as stacking them together to kind of create different tones from different pedals that I liked. But I guess ultimately, even when using them individually, I could still tell a difference, or at least I think I could, which is precisely the point. Now, back in 2017, the guys at Anderton's released a brilliant video about a pedal called the Wampler Psychosomatic Drive, a great new overdrive pedal so drastic in its subtlety that it left you wondering how you'd ever managed without such an imperceptibly perceptible improvement in your tone that only you could barely hear. Now, of course, it was an April Fool's joke, but it did kind of unwittingly hit the nail on the head. If we can convince ourselves that something's working, it probably will. Over the years, there have been countless studies into the power of the placebo effect, but in essence, it is precisely that. If we can convince ourselves that something's working, then it probably will, irrespective of whether it's actually doing anything at all. And if I can convince myself that one overdrive pedal sounds different to another, which in turn inspires a different or even a higher level of playing within myself, then whether it does or not is irrelevant at that point. I've already convinced myself that it does. And whether I'm playing in front of 300 or 3,000 people, I want to feel inspired, and if it's the gear that's bringing that inspiration or generating that extra level of enthusiasm and intent, that's what translates to the audience. If I'm having a good time, they are having a good time, and whether it's because I had an extra Weetabix that morning or whether it's because my amp is dialed in particularly nicely for that stage that I'm on, it becomes irrelevant. The gear or the Weetabix is just the conduit. Ultimately, I'm a musician. It's my job. It's what I do to earn a living. And irrespective of your profession, you probably try and do things, consciously or not, to try and streamline the process. As the old saying goes, work smarter, not harder. If I sat at a desk all day, I'd invest in a comfortable chair. If I drove for a living, I'd make sure that my car was comfortable and I had a good selection of music. If I was a painter, I'd make sure that I had my brushes in good working order. You get the picture. Now, for me, using gear, cheap or expensive, it really doesn't matter. It could be a Klon into a Dumble or a DS1 into a PV Bandit. As I said, I'm not picky in the slightest, as long as it inspires me and brings out the best in my playing. Because if I'm having a good show, odds on the audience will be too, and that is precisely what matters. At the end of the day, a good musician will get a noise out of any old bit of gear, but it doesn't necessarily mean that he should have to. Rant over. As ever, I'm Chris Buck. Thank you very much for watching. This is Friday Fretworks. Please subscribe, hit the bell icon if you haven't already, and I shall see you next week for another episode of Friday Fretworks. Cheers, guys. Take care. I'll see you soon.